Are the Florida Panthers in crisis mode? Well, it's definitely getting there as their journey in the season in December won't get any easier.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, December 1st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. I'm Armando Velez, the host of the show. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. You can do that all on FanDuel. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. Today, we are going to discuss the fact that the Panthers are off to a really poor start on this current 6-game homestand as they've gotten 0 points out of a possible 4 so far, and the leadership for the Florida Panthers has spoken out. We are going to definitely hit on that more in segment number 2 and then discuss Tuesday's game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But right now, the Panthers are in a little bit of a crisis right now in their season, as we spoke multiple times about how the playoffs are not guaranteed, even for the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. You can't think about winning that third cup, three-peating. You have to first of all, try to find ways to get your game right in order to get into the playoffs and then go from there. But right now, the Panthers are in a little bit of a crisis. Yeah, they're missing a lot of their key pieces right now, and it doesn't make me feel any better. The fact that we've seen this multiple times now in the last few weeks of blown 2-goal leads. And the latest one coming in a 5-3 loss against the Calgary Flames on Friday afternoon, which, listen, the Panthers, I was thinking that this game for the Panthers was going to be one where they were going to really press on and put belt to, you know what, on the Calgary Flames coming off that last-minute loss against the Philadelphia Flyers. But the Panthers, it was looking like it was going to be that way early for them, as they got 2 goals, one of them with Jesper Boquist banging the body on Jonathan Huberdeau, and then Evan Rodriguez being down in the zone where Sam Reinhart was able to set him up, scored easily on Devin Cooley, and then the out muscling that Sam Bennett put on Morgan Frost in the neutral zone, and then that give and go play where Sam Bennett goes backhand forehand, and then he gets the scoring going. Once again for the Panthers, you're up 2-0, but again, it's not the fact that the Panthers have blown these 2-goal leads, but it's mostly because of how fast they have happened for the Panthers. And it hasn't even been a full period of the Panthers even holding on to that lead and being able to disrupt things in the neutral zone for the opposition. And really, you look at these last few games for the Panthers. Third period against Vancouver, which once again, that was a game where the Panthers fell behind in the game. And then quickly in the third period, within a few minutes, it's tied 5-5. You're looking at the Nashville game where they're up 2-0, and then in that very same period, right as the Panthers were going into the intermission, tied at 2. Although the Panthers were really cruising in that game, despite it being tied. And then how the Panthers let go of the lead against the Philadelphia Flyers in the first period on Wednesday, in the first period once again on the in their Friday afternoon game against Calgary. And once again, congratulations to Devin Cooley. He's been a great story working for the ECHL. Did spend time with the Florida Everblades. Didn't play more than a handful of games, but that was when they were part of the Nashville Predators affiliate there. But again, credit to Devin Cooley from Los Gatos, California, thinking, okay, Los Gatos means cats, which means Florida Panthers connection, which means Panthers are going to win. Not quite. He was definitely standing on his head as the Panthers were able to pepper 40 shots on him. And then the fact that the Panthers scored on the first 2 shots that they attempted, I really thought that the Panthers were really going to find a way to cruise through this game for them. But I mean, the Panthers, just the attention to detail is just not there. You talk about in the middle of a change on the first one as Jan Kuznetsov got his first of his career, not just first of the season, first of his career, and from distance, Daniil Tarasov was not ready for the shot, and it goes past the glove of Daniil Tarasov, and then once again the screens that like we saw in the Philadelphia Flyers game on Wednesday, it happened on that Mackenzie Weegar goal. Two first goals of the season for two Calgary players, and the fact that it is happening against the league's worst offense, that's the most discouraging part for this one. But we have seen, when the Panthers did go 5-on-3, there was parts of that where the broadcast was kind of complaining about some calls that weren't made. I was annoyed about the trip that wasn't called during the power play, but the interference where the puck was somewhat away, I'm not going to get too angry about that one, because that one is more of a judgment call based on the distance of the puck there when the puck was in the neutral zone. But still, the fact is, we see it's a rarity that two penalties get called in the same shift, with AJ Greer and Aaron Ekblad both going to the box, and then you had a little bit of time to reset there in between periods. But that's also a time for Calgary to reset as well. And then unfortunately, Daniil Tarasov wasn't able to get himself positionally after the shot went off his mask and then off from Rasmus Anderson, and then Morgan Frost is there to clean it up there. But the Panthers also had a good amount of chances after that. I mean, AJ Greer coming out of the box because when they scored on the 5-on-3, you still have one person in the box. It was like 23 seconds left, but AJ Greer having a chance out of the penalty box, and then the exchanging of the 4-on-2s and the 4-on-1s, it was really kind of like a high event run and gun type of game, which we see that if the Panthers do participate in that type of game, that's really that we've seen that shades of 2022 for the Panthers. But we know that the Panthers could score in those type of situations, because we saw it with those 8 goals on the Monday against Vancouver and then the other Monday against the Nashville Predators. But at the same time, it comes with a little bit of a sacrifice of defense, because the defensemen aren't really high up in the point. You're not disrupting some of those breakaway opportunities as much. So that's really the issue for these high event games. But at the same time, if it's not a high event game and the Panthers are giving up 15 shots or something, or in Vancouver against Vancouver, and then 18 against the Philadelphia Flyers, the goalies are not making the stops when they need to. So it's just what's actually better for this group, because we did go on that deep dive of Sergei Bobrovsky not giving up really much of the medium and low danger opportunities. But when the Panthers are very spread out and the opportunities do get from the opposition in the slot, he's not bailing them out. But Daniil Tarasov on Friday afternoon, he wasn't bailing the Panthers out in that game neither. Again, it's hard to stop a goal from going in on a 5-on-3, and then the fourth goal that the Florida Panthers gave up to Calgary, it 2 minutes in the zone, and it's from your supposed best players in Sam Reinhart, Gustav Forsling, Aaron Ekblad. They have a tough time getting out, and it's the long change period for the Panthers here. So they're on the ice for 2.5 minutes in that stretch, and aren't able to just get the puck deep. Take a little bit of a stride yourself. Use some of your east-west movement in order to create and allow them to not close the gap, and just gain the red line, flip it, and get your change. I know that's easier said than done, but the Panthers, that's just really what is really hurting them as far as these long shifts in the D zone. And I feel like we've seen them more and more this season than ever. So at least in recent years. But I will give the coaching staff credit, Paul Maurice, for switching some of the line combos, putting Brad Marchand on the Evan Rodriguez line, putting Sam Reinhart back on the Lundell line as well. So that worked out, and it really created a little bit of a spark, as the Panthers were able to at least get it to a 1-goal deficit, and that worked on a line change. You see a big stop from Daniil Tarasov. The Panthers go on a counterattack. It worked to perfection, and the Sam Reinhart was able to get it to Brad Marchand, the trailer, scoring from the high slot. Those are the higher percentage shots whenever you get it to the middle, have the Flames a little bit spread out there. And also, Brad Marchand on that goal was is now in the top 100 in the all-time points list. So congratulations to Brad Marchand on another accomplishment in his career as well. But got to give credit to Devin Cooley. The multiple stops, especially when he was on his stomach as well, and he was able to get the win for the Flames. And you know what? They might have an underrated tandem there in Calgary, despite their inability to score. Dustin Wolf is there long term, and then Devin Cooley, an older rookie. They definitely got something possibly there. And he also one of his techniques before playing games is the fact that he uses a lot of VR, virtual reality, in order to work on his reflexes. So he's definitely got a good head on his shoulders on how he works with his technique and trusting his structure instead of more of his body. So it's just unfortunate. And the Panthers unable to score with the extra attacker. And that it's just the Panthers' inability to protect the middle when the Flames broke the puck out of their own end, and Seth Jones unable to keep it in on the pinch right before the Flames scored on the empty net. Joe Farabee on that. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss the veterans and the leaders of the team actually calling out the rest of the group. And it's a sign of maturity, even though the Panthers are in a little bit of an up and down throughout these last few weeks. We're going to discuss that more next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Drip Drop. And when I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands, using science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. Hydration has become a non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off of your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. And truthfully, a Friday game and then 2 days off for this Florida Panthers team. 3 days because they don't play until Tuesday. It sucks coming off a loss for this team. The fact that it has not that opportunity to really keep in the mind of the players, but honestly, that could be a good thing for them. But at the same time, I just think about everything that just did not go right in that game, especially with the Panthers' inability to, whenever they dumped the puck in, the defensemen for the Calgary Flames were the first ones there, so they couldn't get the F1 going on their forecheck. So their forecheck chances weren't getting as much on that part. And whenever the Panthers are not getting so, and then even when the Calgary Flames try breaking it out, and even if the Panthers are there right at the blue line to not allow the puck to get out of the zone, it's not, the Panthers aren't really, that gives the Flames still a whole bunch of time to get back into the inside of their own end, especially below the hash marks, and not allow a higher quality shot for the opposition. But that's just the most frustrating thing about it, is just, once again, it's just an offensive dry spell that happens whenever you do get up early. And that's a frustrating thing. And honestly, the great thing about this is, once again, the fact that they've have the resume, the fact that they have the pedigree, whatever you want to call it, and whenever they're not playing up to their standard, they are the leadership of this team is going to call out the rest of the group. And even in the intermission interview, it was the second period going into the third, when the Panthers were down 4-2 heading into the third period. Evan Rodriguez was very honest with Script Sports sideline reporter Katie Engelson, saying that the team got away from who they are. So love the honesty from Evan Rodriguez there. And also Gustav Forsling, he said it after the game, saying, quote, "We've been trying to find our offensive game. I think sometimes you forget a little bit of what made you good, and that's our defense. It's something we want to get back to," close quote. So the Panthers acknowledge that once again, that the identity of this team and what made them so great whenever it came to winning back-to-back Stanley Cup championships is the fact that it's better to do it in low-scoring games. Although shot suppression is great, but if you give your goaltender an opportunity to rest, you'll take that over a good amount of shots and being peppered, because eventually you're not going to be ready for one. And I'm not a goaltender. I'm not going to necessarily speak, but from my observation, I prefer a lower shot volume. I will take that more often than not. It's funny because Saturday, I was watching Tampa Bay Lightning versus New York Rangers, and the Rangers were winning 60% of the faceoffs, but the Tampa Bay Lightning were controlling 2/3 of the shot volume there. And you know what? Jonas Johansson was rested. He wasn't facing a whole bunch of opportunities from the New York Rangers. Also, the New York Rangers are not great this year, so they can't figure it out at home. But the fact that they were able to play so well in front of their own goaltender, that you give yourself an opportunity to just be flat out in control, especially when you're skating out, getting your proper changes, and also not overtaxing the rest of your lineup. And you know what? It comes down to just getting in front of pucks as well, getting those block shots, even if those trickle out of the zone, you're allowing them to reset. And when you're constantly resetting at the blue line, you're gonna even tire out the opponents when they are in control of the puck as well. And although tiring out an opponent is more from them being on defense, you could even do that as well when they are on offense as well. So that's another thing. But again, the Panthers foundation is just, once again, staying tight, protecting the net front. And I also went on Locked On NHL recently with Gil Martin to discuss the Panthers penalty kill. So it's subpar right now. One of the goals that they gave up against Calgary being on the 5-on-3. Again, you don't. It's harder to stop opportunities whenever you're 5-on-3. But at the same time, it's been a thing where the Panthers have just been not able to pressure the puck as well, and also close those gaps and those passing lanes and those backdoor opportunities in order to just ice it back up the other end. So that's just been a constant issue. And you know what? Once again, if we are underrating one loss for the Panthers during this season, it's Dmitry Kulikov. He might be the most unsung hero for the Panthers over these last two seasons. Although he's playing a third pair role, but he's always out there in the key moments. And you know what? The Panthers are not going to have him back until at least March. So the Panthers truly, truly have to figure out, this is the role that they have. And you see that the Panthers have really sheltered the minutes with Jeff Petrie. He's not on power play 2 anymore. He's not playing as much on the PK. I mean, yeah, he's older. He's more of an offensive guy, but their personnel, from what they have with the injuries, it's not to the level that we've seen. And again, you can't. I don't think they can afford to be playing these high octane offensive type of games, because that's really gonna, I think that doesn't favor the Panthers as much as we've seen them in wins. But remember in 2024 when they won the Stanley Cup, every single clinching game was a 1 goal against for each closing game. It only happened twice in 2025, the Toronto series and then the Edmonton series, which the Panthers both blew them out of the water. And the Edmonton one especially was a garbage time goal with 10 minutes left when they were already up 5-0. But again, this is a group where you have to at least attempt to go back to that point. Because we've seen it in the wins early, where because once again the Panthers have not gone on a 3-game winning streak since the first week of the season, and you know what happened? Tight checking game and then clutch in the third period. That's been their bread and butter, and it's crazy because this is the first Panthers 2-game losing streak in a while. Every time before Friday's game against the Calgary Flames, every time they had lost the game, they've responded with a win. But now this is 2 games in a row, and we even moved the goalpost when it came to the post-Thanksgiving barometer with how clunked up the Eastern Conference is. But when you're coming off 2 losses, the way the Panthers have had, this is where you're looking, and it makes you a little nervous looking at it and thinking, could this be the turning point for the wrong reasons for the Panthers season? This very well could be. And that's the tough part for the Panthers here, where you see the Panthers are home. They control the matchups with getting the last change, but you can't even pick up points as of right now. They have been in the early parts of the year, but they haven't lately, and that's just and the fact that you can't get your game established as much away from Sunrise. Is it going to be a 180 where the Panthers pick up points? Because their upcoming road trip is not going to be an easy one. Yeah, they beat Dallas earlier this year, but they're going to be facing a Colorado team that's a force. Only 1 regulation loss this season. And yeah, Utah struggled in the month of November, but that's not an easy matchup. And then they finished the last part of that road trip in Tampa Bay before they return home. So banking some of these points towards the end of this homestand, which one of them you have a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday, there has to be a sense of urgency. There has to be, and it feels like, weirdly, that Tuesday night against Toronto is a must-win. That's how I feel as of right now, where the Florida Panthers are. But let's actually transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to preview Tuesday night's game between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to discuss that and more next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. It's not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the games start to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips over after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props updates as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more, and it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Segment number 3 here on this Monday, December 1st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for bringing the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, your first listen of the day here on a Monday. And just to let you guys know why we are previewing it on a Monday edition of the show, there is likely not going to be a Tuesday edition this week. There isn't going to be a Monday show next week, as your boy has jury duty next week. So so gotta do my thing as an American here, but on the road currently. So we are going to preview Tuesday's game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 7 p.m. puck drop on ESPN Plus. It's an ESPN Plus exclusive matchup for the Florida Panthers as they take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm not going to mince my words. This is a must-win for the Florida Panthers, and it's where the Panthers are in this season and how much they're starting to fall behind in the standings. This is one where you have to battle for your points, and the Panthers, thankfully, the Panthers have the tiebreakers in their favor once again. And you know what? You see the record for the Panthers where you see for them only one overtime loss for them, 12-11-1. So exactly 12 wins, exactly 12 losses, but only one of them coming in overtime. And again, if it's not one way of the Panthers winning in blowout fashion, which we've barely seen, only like twice we have seen this season. Sometimes the Panthers have been able to have been losing close ones, and then those empty netters make the results look a lot worse than they actually are. And the Panthers, with this, only -2 in the goal differential. So, but again, if you get no points and you still lose in the fashion where you give up 2 empty goals, it looks 6-3. But you still come out with nothing out of it. This it's not going to be a happy podcast on Wednesday, on a Winans Wednesday edition, where Jacob Winans will be joining us, and Jacob will have a lot to say if the Panthers aren't able to get a win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Which the Leafs, if you think the Panthers are down bad with the injuries, the Maple Leafs are in a worse position. And we knew that the Leafs were going to take a little bit of a step back when they lost Mitch Marner in the sign-in trade with Vegas, which they brought back Nick Waugh, who's their third-line center right now. And the Leafs were trying to make some moves in the aggregate as far as their depth. It was a damned if they did, damned if they didn't, if they were to either re-sign Mitch Marner or let him go. So they were going to face some type of criticism regardless. If they signed Mitch Marner with the way the salary cap was moving, and although they were paying already Nylander, Matthews, Tavares' contract expired, he did sign a hometown discount, and he's been playing well. He's been the least of the issues for the Leafs. Same thing with Willie Nylander. He's getting game-winning goals and clutch moments there. But that doesn't leave a lot of room for depth. They're creating the depth and allowing them for cap to open up to possibly make a trade for a superstar, or they could try to go after Connor McDavid in the 2028 offseason, excuse me. Him and Austin Matthews' contracts expire at the same time. But this is a team that can score at will, but the breakaway opportunities that they give up are astonishing. That's really the tough part whenever you watch this team play hockey. And their power play, they were towards the top 5 just a few years ago. They still run the 5-forward power play. Morgan Riley started off with the power play unit for the Leafs, and they haven't been able to get goals in bunches like they were a few weeks ago. But now they're running Easton Cowan and Matthew Nyes with that unit, which Easton Cowan had to temporarily go to the AHL because he's waivers exempt, to call up Scott Laughton to the mix. He's now back with the team. But you look at some of the pieces that they brought, like a Dakota Joshua who can bang the body and can get in on the forecheck, but they're slower. That's the thing. There's not a lot of pace. They're trying to play a brand of slow-paced hockey, but whenever it comes to their opportunities in transition, they're not stopping, especially down the middle, because the F1 for Toronto is so deep near the goal line that when it comes to that breakout pass for who they're playing against, the forward is not protecting the middle as well. So Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll are facing a lot of those high-quality opportunities off of breakaways. And in goal, it's been tough for them. Joseph Wall missed the beginning part of the season, and Anthony Stolarz has been taking the majority of the starts and then calling out his team and having to apologize for how they played in front of him. And now Anthony Stolarz is hurt, and it's Joseph Wall getting a good amount of the starts. Dennis Hildeby did get a few of them for him, but also they're missing a big key piece on their blue line. And Chris Tanev, he had a collision at center ice with Matvei Michkov. He had to be taken off a stretcher, and we know how much of a tough son of a gun Chris Tanev is. We've seen that over and over in Calgary, in Dallas, where he's just a shot blocking machine, and it's not all, they're not limiting those opportunities off their goaltenders. Brandon Carlo, I'm not a big fan of Brandon Carlo, to be quite honest. We've seen so many times that the Panthers have just beaten them off the puck and just some lazy passes, especially when he gets to the corner and the Panthers are there to just trap it on the half wall where it creates opportunities. But still, the Leafs in this position with the trade, if they get into the top 5, they're keeping their pick for what they traded for in those trades with Scott Laughton and Brandon Carlo. Only way that they don't keep their pick is if the lottery odds have them outside of the top 5, and then it gets really difficult. The conditions, I wish I could explain them all in one podcast, but it's a long list of what the conditions will be for what's unprotected next year and the year after, and one pick could actually move 2 years ahead of time. That was approved by Central Registry in the NHL offices, but I challenge you guys to look up all the details, because it's like it will have your head spinning there. But again, I thought that coming into this season, with the Marner noise not being there as whether he'll sign or resign, I said, okay, Austin Matthews should be healthier. Okay, second season under Craig Berube, he shouldn't have his seat hot, right? As you're getting used to newer pieces to your team this year. But it's Toronto. It's the loudest market in the NHL, so you never know what Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment is going to do. They also changed leadership, as Brandon Shanahan is no longer there. So it's going to be interesting of what's going to happen with those off-ice storylines if they don't, in fact, make the playoffs. But I just look at this team, and I do just think they're a little slower from years before. And how Mitch Marner protected the blue line on the power play, you don't see that work as well whenever you see the Toronto Maple Leafs go on the man advantage there. So, but that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. We'll be back on Tuesday as we will recap the Panthers game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and hopefully it's with 2 points and not 0. But if they find a way to lose another home game, it might be time to panic. But hopefully it's not that case. But make sure to come back on Wednesday. And in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.